Wonderful to be here with you, Governor. We have lots of conversations we're going to have today about AI, about affordability, and how we keep New York vibrant and safe. So let's dive in. Governor, you've said that your priority is making New York a place that people want to move to and live. What do you see as the biggest driver of New York's competitiveness?
It is truly the energy that we exude as New Yorkers. Outside of New York, they might call it a little bit of arrogance, but there's that certain mojo we have, that can-do spirit that has defined us since the inception of this club 118 years ago. And so I think that particularly after the pandemic, when you think about the young people that are coming here, this has become one of the #1 tech destination, tech job destinations in our nation. The whole experience of being out in Silicon Valley and working in these suburban office parks that have miniature golf and big slides, I've been to them, but there was this remoteness.
Yeah.
And I think even after the pandemic, people lost that human connection. If they're going to come to work, they want to be with other people, have those creative collisions at the barista. And
Yes.
so that's what we offer here. Also the diversity. You know, our tech companies, especially from the West Coast where much of it began, are realizing that they're creating platforms and solutions via technology and AI that have been very much slanted toward one perspective, which is that of the people who happen to work there, which is very homogeneous, I'll politely say. They come to New York, they have more women in technology, something that you have focused on, Girls Who Code, which is an extraordinary program. I've been to so many classes and graduations around the state promoting it, but also, you know, our ethnic diversity and people from around the world come here. So that's something that sets us apart. The fact that 47% of new tech jobs and companies are being started by people who are foreign born, they're gravitating to our city because they know it is a welcoming place. I think at the high level, that is what sets us apart and continues to be part of our competitive strength, as well as leveraging the superpower we have of our outstanding universities. I mean, our graduates are second to none.
That's right. I mean, there was a moment in time where I was trying to take all our people, but now people are coming back.
Oh, they're coming back.
They're coming back in
They're still over Palm Beach. Maybe not everybody in this room, but okay, I'll grant you better weather, but let's get serious. Our arts, our culture, it's like the vibe here. I mean, if you've been to Broadway lately or walked the streets, I walked 2 miles again this morning. I walk the streets of the city every single day when I'm here, and I can feel it. And I think a lot of other cities and states have lagged behind in this post-pandemic world, but we are that destination. And I am concerned about policies out of Washington that are making it more difficult for foreign-born students to be coming here.
That's right.
This has always been our strength because they come here, they're educated, and they stay, and they build companies, they build wealth. So that's a barrier that I think is something that doesn't have to be. It's self-inflicted, and that's going to hurt our whole nation, but we have to power through that.
Yeah, and one of the big drivers of how people decide or where people decide to live is affordability. I mean, affordability is a huge component of competitiveness. Housing and safety matter as well. Childcare is also a big driver of cost. How do you think about affordability holistically? Because I really do believe that you are the affordability governor in the country.
How I think about it nonstop, number one. I truly do, and this is not a new incarnation of a position for me. I've been talking about this for my entire life, because I started out very humbly. You know, my parents used to live in a trailer park, and I was born in a little, tiny place near the steel plant where my dad worked at the factory. My grandpa worked there, my uncles worked there, and then we eventually, were able to emerge out of that into a much more successful life because my dad was able to get a college degree, and that took us out. But we struggled in the early years. And so I think just because of my life's experience, even starting out as a new mom in Washington, when I couldn't find childcare and had to leave a job. I was counsel to Senator Moynihan. I loved that job, but I couldn't find childcare. My husband was working at a not great paying government job at the time. And so those early struggles haven't changed much for young people today. And I want this to be the place that families want to come to. And I know the barriers. That's why I've been leaning so hard into building more housing. The number one cost is your rent And if you're lucky enough to have a house, your mortgage. And something that was always within reach for people who worked hard, my entire life, people are working hard today and not able to reach that. And part of it is that we did not have the ambition in this state that, I'm sorry to admit this, was demonstrated by our neighbors, New Jersey and Connecticut, who built more housing. They broke through barriers, and we've stagnated. So I've made that a real signature part of my work and are having tremendous success. I spend time on even the far reaches of Long Island and convincing Republican supervisors, like, come on, you don't have the workforce, you don't have a place for young couples to live in the neighborhood they grew up in. So let's just start building. I had a meeting with them yesterday. So housing is number one. I've allocated $1 billion for the City of Yes that Eric Adams launched, and he needed that much money to get over the finish line. It was a late night call. Governor, can you do $1 billion? And if it's for housing, yes. I mean, I don't play games with this. If it's good for the people of New York, I'll do it. So housing, childcare, and I'm so proud of the work that you do with Moms First as well. You really are, whatever you're working on is really addressing society's problems, and I appreciate that, Reshma. But childcare was a cost barrier. We already, in my budget this year, we have $2.2 billion for childcare. We changed the formula so 500,000 more children are eligible for subsidies. We have $110 million to build more facilities. But we have a long way to go. I mean, we're not even close. But if I can tackle housing, more supply, drive down the costs, ultimately, build more, get the child care costs down, and also utility bills.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go for a more robust all-the-above approach. Obviously, there's very much criticism of some of my policies, but I don't have a choice. I try to go full-on renewable. I had to save an offshore wind project that will now be, because I saved it, the Trump administration literally shut it down in March, and it's going to generate power for 500,000 homes in Brooklyn next year to be powered by offshore wind. I could not let that go. I had to negotiate hard to get that back. But that's what I'm talking about, hydro and even nuclear.
Yeah.
This is something that people don't expect from a Democratic governor. Well, that's a shame, because I want to power the economy that is knocking on our door.
Yeah.
The innovation, the technology, artificial intelligence, quantum. But I have to have plentiful power to do it, as well as help drive down the costs for our consumers and local businesses.
Yeah,
that's my framing of what affordability looks like, is tackling all those areas, and we have strategies on each.
Yeah, and I want to go deep in some of those areas in a second. I want to ask you a question that's probably on a lot of people in this room's mind. You recently endorsed Zohran Mamdani. What assurances can you offer to city's business leaders who've expressed some concerns about his election?
Listen, I've heard the concerns many times. I think people are starting to understand that it's hard for New Yorkers to accept this. I'm sorry to say it, but New York City is still a subdivision of the state. So the state of New York, the governor.
Yeah, we don't think that.
I know. I don't think generally there's been this tension between governors and mayors historically, and I swore I would never do that, and I'm not going to go there. I work with Bill de Blasio. I work very closely with Eric Adams. We work to drive down the crime rates, which we've been successful at. So I'm a person who will exercise my power where I need to, behind the scenes or in front, but my goal is to just deepen relationships, and so an endorsement like that allows me to have a relationship with someone who I believe is going to be the next mayor, which I think is going to be important for me to be involved in transition team and the talent to surround him, because whoever the voters want as their mayor, it's my job to make it all work out. I will never root against this city. I also represent the 8.3 million people who call New York City home. They're my constituents as well. So I think there's a path for us to work collaboratively. He's an assembly member. He understands what a governor can do. Mayors historically come to us. It's literally called Tin Cup Day. The mayors from every city come and ask for money and support, and they want to have a relationship with the governor as well that's productive, because they want to go home with their tin cup as full as it can be. So there's policies that are troubling to the business community. I understand that, but let's get to a place, and the candidate has focused intensely on affordability.
Yep.
And that is not just a buzzword, it's a call to find meaningful solutions that start changing people's lives and their perspectives of their lives immediately. And I look forward to working with him on that. But this does give me what I need to do is be able to be, a voice of influence that I think is necessary. So I just tell everybody, don't worry, we're going to be okay. This is New York. We truly are. We truly are going to be fine. We'll work it out. He's brought an energy to politics, which I think is important. I don't dismiss that at all, and a voice and an optimism. I think that's what our city needs. I said, I've always been a happy warrior.
Yeah.
I represent, the most Republican district in New York in Congress, and it was tough. But they said I was the happy warrior. I just powered through it, won people over. And I believe that Zohran Mamdani has that ability as well.
Thank you. I want to talk about AI. We discussed, I had an opportunity to have a conversation with you about 5 months ago about the $400 million Empire AI investment. And since then, you've expanded it to over $500 million, launched a supercomputer that's 11 times more powerful. Everybody in this room wants to dunk on California.
Oh yeah, this is easy to do.
AI.
This is an easy one for me to do.
And we want to be leading the way in terms of education, in terms of innovation. If you're a startup entrepreneur, you want to come here and build your company. What are you seeing? What concrete results are you seeing since you've made that investment that's going to make us believe that we're...
And it's only been, it was a short time ago.
That's right.
When the idea was presented to me as this, I had breakfast with an individual who was very much forward thinking, and he said, I have this idea, it's probably only got a 10% chance of happening, but I want to plant it with you. And he says, what if we able to harness money from the state, millions, literally millions, money from the private sector, millions, and bring in the superpower of our universities, our primary universities around the state, our research institutions, and bring it all together and build the first in the nation institute or empire or for artificial intelligence dedicated to public good and research. So it's already working. I mean, it's up in the University of Buffalo. It wasn't just a hometown call. I know what you're thinking, but it's also, I had plentiful power. It's right near the hydroelectric plant we have at Niagara Falls, so I could power this. There's plenty of space. And what it does is it harnesses artificial intelligence in a way that the researchers, as we talk about innovating new therapies for diseases, they're light years ahead of where they would have been.
Right.
Because of everything, the speed of it. Also trying to figure out ways we can support businesses and overcome this fear of AI, because it's having an effect on jobs. We have to put that right out there and figure out how we can solve that. But we launched it. My friends from Silicon Valley all said, we wish our governor had thought of this, because we're the first in the nation. So this is power that's not available to any other institutions in the country. This is the largest supercomputer in the nation that's not in a private company's hands. And then we already did our beta.
Yep.
Already the next year, and it's 11 times more powerful, and we're just getting warmed up. And I was just on my way here, at a meeting in my office, talking to someone who's looking to do a $50 billion investment in artificial intelligence upstate with the power we have. So we're just getting started. He said, when we open this, we can have 11 more companies that'll come.
Yeah.
So you're just seeing the beginning of this, but we planted the seeds. We gave us the foundation we needed. And this will help not just the upstate economy, but all the way from here to Long Island.
Governor, what do you think, though, what's the next part of this conversation? And if you look at the recent jobs report, you can finally see the impact that AI is going to have on jobs. I often think about that, actually an East ANY member, board trustee said this to me. He said, we thought it was bad in the 80s with the auto industry in Detroit. What's about to happen in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be that times 100 in terms of the impact that you're going to see. And you're immediately going to see it with young people, right? Because many of those entry-level jobs are just simply not going to be open. And any nation that has a bunch of young people unemployed it's not good for social unrest. And so what I'm not seeing enough about in the policy discourse is what's the plan on jobs?
Let me break this into two parts. Before I launched this, I had a meeting up at the governor's residence with the CEOs of the largest tech companies in the nation, and a lot of people involved in workforce development. And I put out the question. It was a very thoughtful evening before we did this. I said, what happens to the jobs of people right now? I said, tell me how you're preparing for this, how I should prepare for this. And when they talked about the fact that there's a task that it would take someone an entire week to do, and they can now get it done in a day. He says, that enhances our productivity that much. That person's not going to lose their job. We're going to be that much more productive and therefore more profitable. And that is one side of the equation. On the other hand, we've been encouraging young people to study coding for years.
Yes.
Who would have thought coding would be obsolete?
Not me, certainly.
No. I mean, so you need to have girls, girls who AI, that's girls who AI. So it is a transition, and you don't need to tell me about disruption from these economic transformations, disruptors, because I'm from Buffalo. We lost our identity for 2 decades when Bethlehem Steel left. I mean, that shuttered down, 20,000 jobs overnight, and my entire family, I come from a big Irish family, everybody had to leave the state.
Yeah, you know this, you've seen it.
I saw it, I lived it, and it was depressing. Unemployment was 14-17% when I was growing up. The headlines were always another company leaving town. That's why I'm so focused on creating jobs. So I am concerned about the plight of the young people who were promised that if you go into these skills, there'll be jobs for you forever. But let's figure out these companies who assure us, who are going to say,
right,
we're going to be more productive and more profitable, but also I have so many more jobs. I have 200 individuals part of a new program up at the University of Buffalo who are learning skills to harness the power of AI and do things that you can't even imagine in this room right now.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got to shift the focus to those who would have been working in traditional coding to be able to be in a position for these opportunities. But deeply troubling to me is the fact that the unemployment rate for recent college grads is going up.
Yeah, it's going up.
And I have to find more opportunities for them to shift into the job. I have 700,000 open jobs in New York, by the way. Our unemployment is still very low in the state. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's advanced manufacturing, whether it's the trades, where I'm building so much. I mean, we have a huge shortage of people in the trades, but also, education. I don't have enough nurses because I don't have enough nursing teachers. I mean, so I have such demand for people. We just have to point them, and if you go to my Department of Labor website.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like figuring, there's gonna be more jobs in care. Listen, I think companies saying that they're gonna be more profitable as they reduce jobs is true, right? I think the question is like, what's the role that business actually plays in ensuring that our next generation has an opportunity,
Right.
you know what I mean, to march into the middle class? And I have no doubt, because you've seen this, that you're gonna help figure what that is.
We absolutely are. No, it is a challenge that we're leaning into.
Yeah. I want to talk about my favorite topic now, childcare. As you know, it is you've invested $7 billion in childcare. You were one of the first governors in the country to really see the potential, and not the potential of childcare as a personal issue, but as an economic issue.
That's right.
Workers can't work without childcare, and businesses don't work without childcare, period. It is the same problem. For those of us in this room who still may see it as a social policy issue and not an economic issue, can you educate?
I sure can.
Thank you.
Especially after the pandemic. I was convening leaders of various businesses, different parts of the state. I remember one forum I did in Westchester, and a lot of the business leaders were saying, the women aren't coming back to work after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because so many childcare facilities shut down during the pandemic, never reopened, and this was all of a sudden they realized, this is a problem that affects me now and my company, because I can't get the workers back. Before it was always viewed as, well, you wanted to have kids, you figure it out, right? That's how I felt. There was no support system when I was having my children. And so I love the fact that businesses are seeing this as their problem as well. It's a competitive issue, because I believe that the companies that are enlightened enough to find and provide some form of childcare will be the ones that people gravitate to. And whether it's on-site for large facilities, look what I did with Micron. We landed the largest private sector investment in American history in upstate New York. 50,000 jobs, $100 billion investment. But I also said, we'll support you. The CHIPS and Science Act put in about $5 billion. We put in about $6 billion from the state, and believe me, that was not an easy lift with our legislature. But it's going to result in construction jobs and long-term jobs. But I also said, we're going to support you, but you need to support the community. I'm going to need you to have a childcare facility on site. You got big land, you got lots of room, you got lots of money. Guess what they're doing? They're building it right now. On-site childcare. They'll be able to have, the parents, men and women, who want to be able to see their kids during break time or not worry about them if they have to work late. That's how you start solving this. And even in areas that are, the small downtowns I visit, why don't the 5 businesses on this block come together and put together a consortium and help subsidize a little program in this empty storefront right here? And the problem with New York City is we have zoning that makes it impossible to expand because everything has to be on the ground floor.
Or close to a park, as you had said.
Yeah, park. So I think it's time to just, not just in housing, but in childcare, New York City, in order to be competitive and address this crisis, has to be more nimble in looking at regulations. And I have a team that's scouring our regulations to find the ones that are barriers to businesses and their success. And this is definitely one of them in the city.
Yeah.
So let's figure that out.
Yeah.
That it shouldn't have to be has to be on a first floor when a lot of these children are living in, high-rise apartments themselves. Why they have to be on a ground floor to go be taken care of by another person. So there's not a logic to it, but I do put it on the businesses now who want to employ people and support and find ways to support the workers.
Yeah, I mean, we're just coming off a meeting with the partnership and with business leaders, and it's like they realize that this is the number one impediment to them being able to hire the best people. I mean, it feels like there's a pivotal moment right now, both in the city and the state. I mean, childcare was the number one. Mayoral election was a defining issue as to how people voted, quite frankly, in the primary election. It will be the same thing in the general. Can you commit to working with the next mayor on this issue? And do you feel like there's room in the 2026 budget to help kind of increase childcare investments?
Already had the conversation.
Yes.
No, we've been speaking all summer to find whether or not there's a commonality, and I have found it in many areas, and many major disagreements, which are widely known. But this is one area where we talked about the fact that in 1 year we could do it, but it's $7 billion for New York City alone. I double that because the rest of the state I cannot leave behind. We're talking $15 billion. I have about $14 billion in reserve. I have a $3 billion hole from the federal government in 1 year because of the cuts in Medicaid support. I have to figure that out, and $750 million this year alone. So we talked about the logic of starting it, and I already called for universal childcare in my last budget. So that's why I have $2.2 billion being spent now. But there is absolutely a path to do this, and you have great ideas. Moms, we're looking at your plans.
Thank you.
On the fact that you can't do it all in 1 year, but you have to give people hope that
you can phase it in.
You can phase it in. That is
for
exactly what you do.
$300 million, and
we can do it. But I also believe this will make us more competitive as a state.
That's right.
Because we'll have the employers with the employee workforce, that attrition will be reduced, right? And I think, as someone who's been in this business a long time and helped start some family businesses and ran, helped run some tech companies in my previous life, you take care of your employees during these early years when they just need help. I mean, the kids are, from birth until kindergarten. That's when you support them. They'll be with you the next 20, 30 years. So this is an investment in people.
That's right.
That shows they matter. And after the pandemic, I think young people, particularly, everybody's priorities shifted more toward families are really important.
Families are very
seeing
important.
that loss of life that was so prevalent during the pandemic and realizing how precious it is. People really need that time with their families. And I think it makes them come back to work as a more engaged individual. And that's why even, paid family leave.
Yes.
Giving, my son is about, just came off of paid leave 2 years ago with the new baby. My son-in-law is now going to be starting his 4 months to take care of the baby. So that also creates a relationship with children that just wasn't there when my dad was working at the factory, the long hours they put in. But I think it's really important, and you'll get a more well-adjusted, happier, more committed employee. I think businesses need to look at the whole of that person, their happiness and contentedness, and you take care of their problems, makes them more productive for you.
I'm going to take that as a yes, Governor.
Yes. Oh, yes.
All right. I'm a mom of a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I think a lot about crime and safety. Oftentimes when I'm walking to school, I'll see someone shooting up on the corner, right? I mean, crime is a problem, a big problem in the city. How do you balance keeping New Yorkers safe?
Well, this has been job number one since I've been in office exactly 4 years. Right after the pandemic, our numbers were escalating at frighteningly high numbers. Yeah. Whether it was the shootings, the murders, the assaults, subway crimes, and we're trying to tell people, pandemic's over, come back to work, and please ignore the scary headlines about the crimes in the subway and get on the subway. I knew that we had to make the subway safer before we could make that case to people to get back on your main primary vehicle of transportation to come to your jobs. And so we did. We invested so much energy into this. I can't tell you how many meetings I had with my law enforcement team just trying to strategize and working with the mayor on how we could do this. And subway safety is something that I have more say over because basically the MTA is a creature of the state. So what you saw we did, several years ago, we launched Cops, Cameras, and Care. Cops, I said, I need to flood the zone. I need to have more police officers visible, and to the extent that they couldn't afford to do more in the city, I said, I'll pay for overtime. You've never had this in the history of New York, where the governor's paying for law enforcement overtime to cover the subways. There's 2 police officers on all the overnight trains. Crime has plummeted. And that's normally the most dangerous time when it comes to crimes. It's on the overnight when we have our healthcare workers and our people in hospitality in the trains late at night, and there are not many other people. So we focused on police officers. Then you're taking it down. And I saw a little spike in March of last year, and I said, I can't even have a little blip. I cannot start this trend upward again. So I said, National Guard next. And again, I'm the one who deploys the National Guard in New York because I'm the commander-in-chief. I had this chat with the president about whose responsibility is. I said, I'll give you a call.
To remind him?
I said, I'll give you a call if I need you, and he said, okay, so we'll just put that over here. We're good right now. But the National Guard there, not that they had a policing function or a military function, but the deterrent effect, and I can't tell you who told me, like they just felt better. Like they just thought, no one's gonna do anything bad, that guy's standing there, or that woman's standing there. And so between the police, the National Guard, more MTA police, calming it all down, and then there's a camera now on every train. They told me it would take a few years. They said it will not take a couple years, you're doing it now, and we're gonna speed it up. So they doubled their time. Every train has a camera, so behave when you're on the trains, you're being watched. And also, we talk about care, it is the people getting on the train in the morning, and there's been homeless individuals sleeping on the train overnight, or someone sleeping on the platform, or as soon as you come out of the station. It creates this sense of anxiety for people. You don't know, is this person harmless, or are they gonna do something harmful to you or your family member? And that's the unease people feel. So we took to a lot of effort, put in the money and building out the supply of supportive housing. We took 1,000 people who had been long-term homeless, longer than a year living in those confines there, and getting them into supportive housing. But then there had been an historic approach to people with severe mental health problems, because not all people who are homeless have mental health problems, because some just literally can't afford a place to live, may have lost their apartment. So there's that category. But those who have serious mental health problems, the conventional wisdom was always that, well, they have a civil liberty, the right to be there, you can't remove them. I took that on this year in the legislature, and it was a tough one. And I was able to change the laws that allow for law enforcement and people who are mental health professionals to do an assessment and to remove someone, it's called involuntary, get them into a hospital for care and evaluation and put them on a treatment plan and make sure that someone's watching that is implemented so they don't cycle right back to the streets. And we're making a real difference there as well. So, Marsha, I will tell you there's still problems out there, but we just had the July and August statistics for the subway, the lowest crime rate in history, those 2 months. And summertime is usually when things break bad. And same thing with murders are down statewide about 35%, shootings down about 27%. The numbers are trending in a great direction. Again, the trajectory was going up, we are going down. But there's a psychological effect. It's hard for people to wash away the earlier fears they had and say, oh, the governor just said the statistics are good, I feel much better. I'm realistic. because there's going to be still another horrific case tomorrow. And that one story is going to make people feel it could happen to them, even though we have the lowest crime rate of any big city in America. It just doesn't feel like that.
Right.
So that's what I have to work on, the psychology part of it now. And we'll keep the investments going, but that is so important to me, statewide, in the city. I've rolled out $3 billion in law enforcement money. No governor's ever funded law enforcement at that scale. And we're seeing some good numbers.
Yeah, it's working. So after the pause on congestion pricing, business leaders want a credible MTA capital plan. How are you securing long-term capital for transit while keeping the city moving? And what's the alternative funding package you're advancing?
Well, we're good for the next capital plan, for sure. That was not an easy lift. When I was fairly new at being governor, the MTA was heading off the fiscal cliff. It had not been invested in at the levels it needed to just do the basic repair and maintenance, much less expansion. And so I had to put a lot of money and get credit for saving it from its demise, which was just a few years ago. And also the numbers of riders was way down because of the pandemic, and we're trying to bring that up. So then last year, I had a structure plan to fund a $68 billion capital plan for the next 5 years. And that was hard, but I negotiated it with the legislature. The payroll mobility tax went up a little bit, but that is basically what is funding it for now. So I'm committed to this, and not just the existing projects and the safety and the new signalization and the other elements that need to be maintained, but I'm starting new projects. Second Avenue subway, next phase, is going to be completed. I'm working with the federal government to get that done. We're working hard on that. It's going to take time, obviously, but also the Interborough Express.
Yep.
I love this project.
Yes.
Because I know in Manhattan, the perception is the world revolves around Manhattan, but there's actually a couple of other boroughs, 4 exactly. And
Really?
Queens and Brooklyn, a lot of people live and work out there, one or the other, want to visit the family. You shouldn't have to take the train into the city to go back out.
No.
So I'm creating a connection, a 9-mile connection that uses abandoned rail lines. We're already underway, and I'm real excited about that. But that's being funded by this capital plan as well, the Interborough Express, connecting Brooklyn and Queens. So there's a lot of good projects we're doing. And also I'm doing the bus station over. And no one would do the bus station because it was too expensive. So the alternative was like, well, let's just leave it there and let somebody else worry about it. Those are the projects I lean into.
Yeah.
Ones that people think they can just keep kicking down the road and ignoring, whether it's that. I think it's $10 billion to redo the bus station, but it's going to be beautiful and change that neighborhood. It's going to be so enhanced. And Penn Station.
Looks fantastic.
It's not, we haven't even started yet. I mean, so you're looking at parts of it, some elements of it are done, but I talked to the president about this in my first conversation with him back in November. I said, Mr. President, I think there's a lot we can do together. You're a New Yorker, I'm a New Yorker, we can work together. And I said, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to have to hit you, criticize when I disagree or think you're hurting New Yorkers or our values or our rights, but I also think there's a lot of area for collaboration. And Penn Station was one of them. And we've been trying for 3 years to get Amtrak to get out of our way so I could burst through and start making some improvements there. And I told the president that, and he changed the leadership and got Andy Byford now, and so we're doing good things. And then we had about $1.2 billion set aside for Penn Station, but it's going to cost a lot more than that, probably $7, $8, $9 billion. And I remember the Secretary of Transportation said, was like, well, we're taking it over, pushing me aside, like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because you run it, I lease it.
Yeah.
And I just said, you just saved me $1.2 billion, and I put the $1.2 billion I took out of it and said, you're paying the whole cost, and I put that toward the Interborough Express. So all's good. And I talked to the president about it not long ago, about the plans and how grandiose we want to make them. We want me to bring the plans down. So we're on a track to and those are just not just the subway, not just infrastructure, but I really do love infrastructure projects. It puts a lot of people to work, helps a lot of our companies, the engineering firms, the design firms, the architect, that puts a lot of people to work. And the result is creating structures that have been just so abandoned and ignored and just taken for granted. It always has to be that way. And I just refuse to accept that. So I'll always find a path forward.
I mean, I remember we were talking about the Second Avenue subway when I ran for Congress in 2010.
Yeah.
It's like these infrastructure projects have been around for so long. I mean,
19
every time I'm on the Amtrak, I see these expensive trains that like my tax dollars went to, that are just sitting there.
Second Avenue subway expansion to create what is now a transit desert and bring people the ability to work in the rest of the city has been talked about since 1940. I literally went into the tunnels and they stopped it in the 60s because they didn't have enough money or ambition.
Yeah.
And so I said, no, we're getting this done.
So take the mood down even more. As of September, the state budget director is projecting a $750 million shortfall this fiscal year and a $3 billion deficit next year, much of it due to federal spending cuts. I mean, these gaps are having enormous ripple effects for families and businesses. I mean, talk about
Well, both of
the
those
cuts to...
No, those are both directly correlated to what happened on July 4th when
Right.
the president signed what he calls a beautiful bill. I find it rather ugly when it comes to the impact on New York.
Exactly.
So the $750 million was a direct cut to Medicaid for us this year. So we were having to go look at our agencies, figure it out, trying to just find a path forward. $750 million I have to make up this year, and I have to make up $3 billion next year, unless we're going to tell people that they have no Medicaid. And it is
Or no Head Start.
no, no, and the nutrition programs. So here's the problem. We get about $93 billion a year from the federal government. The state does, as part of my budget. All kinds of programs that have historically funded. It's just how it is, and we spend a lot of money to this federal government. I cannot, as the governor, backfill cuts to this scale, even we're talking about. I just cannot make up for it. So there are consequences to these actions that must be heard about loud and clear. We didn't do this, we didn't ask for this. But I have almost 2 million people in New York State who are going to be at risk of losing their health care overall. What that does, it'll destabilize our hospitals because people will still get sick and they'll walk in the door and they will not have a Medicaid card to cover it. Even in our rural areas, I was up in the North Country the other day, opening up a brand new facility, 650 jobs we were able to save by bringing in more. I digress, I get excited about bringing in jobs, but there's an intense anxiety about hospitals. There will be hospitals closing in rural parts of our state. And you don't feel it right here, but most of our state is rural. I mean, most of our state geographically is served by hospitals that are already far apart. You close a few of those, it's going to have a devastating effect on people's ability to get life-saving health care or just preventative care or testing. So the point is we have to make sure people know this. I have 400,000 people that are going to lose it. I already sent out the notices 9 months from now. I had to give 400,000 people right off the bat. They're getting a letter from me. It's going to say, if you don't want this to happen, push your member of Congress to extend this or to stop this. So I don't think New York State should wear this. People need to know where this came from, but I will have to deal with the fallout, without a doubt. And it'll have an effect on trying to figure out $3 billion here. That's $3 billion less for other programs that we want to fund that we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what you have to manage. We'll get through it, but it is absolutely unnecessary at a time when our costs are going up because of tariffs. Talk to a farmer in the North Country or around central New York, as I have. The tariffs are making it more expensive for them. They lost their markets in Canada. Our biggest trading partner is Canada. $50 billion trade relationship between us and Canada, and they want nothing to do with us. I'm heading up to Quebec and we're trying to meet some premiers and others to try and reset a relationship, but they still look at it, well, we like you, New York, but your country wants to take us over. That's a little hard. I don't know what to tell you there. It's a little hard, but they're boycotting our liquor, our stores, they're not coming over. It is a ghost town in the North Country. Our little tourist places all summer long, Lake Placid, Saranac Lake, Lake George. It is devastating. And I think people up there are realizing, like, this is from Congress accepting the president's plan, and there are going to be consequences.
Yeah, I hear that from small business owners all the time that are just getting crushed, and they don't have a lot of time to figure it out, and they can't actually impose, the cost on customers anymore because everybody's drowning.
Inflation is not settling down. We were promised lower prices day one. Remember that? Lower prices, lower utility. Everybody was promised. If they just stayed the way they were before, we'd be okay. We could survive. now to go on top of inflation on inflation.
Yeah.
And what are we heading in for? Is it stagflation next? Is it
Yeah.
full-on recession? I mean, it's just so much uncertainty right now. And I look at life through the perspective of business as well. I look at businesses as my customers, and I think that's the world I was in before as politics. Businesses aren't going to make decisions without having some clarity, some certainty. They need to know the rules of the road. I mean, we can handle it, just tell us what they are. Are there going to be tariffs on these products? My supply chain going to be affected? Is my supply chain going to dry up or not? And that's suppressing a lot of growth here. I have a council of economic advisors myself. The top smartest people in the state were in my office yesterday as we try to work through this. And the indicators, again, not anything to do with the state of New York, but out of Washington, it's really complicated, the ability for businesses to just see clear enough down the road and say, yes, we're going to expand our line, we're going to hire more people, we're going to expand our facility from downstate up to upstate. Everybody's in a holding pattern.
Right.
And that is not how business stagnates if it doesn't keep growing.
Yeah, you can't grow without stability.
And I want to foster a very pro-business environment. The jobs that are created, the economic benefit, the pride that we have when businesses are here. And I want people to know that I'm going to work very hard so people know that they are always welcome in this state. And this era of people feeling denigrated because of their success that is not going to come back.
Yeah. So as we close out, for all the business leaders in this room, what's one ask that you make of them?
Stay calm. Seriously, I think we rely so much on the business leaders to have confidence and to understand that, there is, at least in the state of New York, I can't speak for beyond New York, that we have calm, steady leadership that understands how important businesses are for my bottom line, number one, the revenues we generate, but also just, again, I go back to coming from an era when the jobs were just gone and every job mattered and no one could find a livelihood, and it just destroyed so many lives when I was growing up. I never lose that. So I value businesses for their investments in our state tremendously and the people that they're giving the dignity of a good job. So just stay the course. Washington will manage. We'll be okay with the city, the next mayor. I assure you, we're going to be okay. And I don't want you to make a decision, as some have said, well, we might leave the state. You don't have to. You don't have to. You'll regret it, because all the action's right here in New York.
All the vibes are here.
That's right. All right.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, thank you.